So you may wonder, why are you here? You're just here to eat? You're here to see some awards given, and I mean, it's a good thing to come out and see a World War II veteran honored. In February, Joseph was really right. I have a tendency to walk up to people and say, hey, I have an idea. And I really tend to follow it up with, you want to help? And the next gentleman to speak, he didn't hesitate. He said, absolutely, and he followed through. And that idea was this breakfast. And this breakfast wouldn't be happening without him. Why are we doing this particular breakfast? Well, it's a fundraiser because it takes everyone, it takes all hands. And so we knew we had to do something to be able to make it happen because I can't afford to feed all the veterans in the Northshore area for breakfast. That'd be expensive. So we knew we had to reach out to the community. And that's where this idea came from. And the idea got bigger, and obviously a lot bigger. This turnout's pretty amazing. And then Scott said, well, let's make it kind of a model so people can see what it might look like. Now, we're not going to have a whole bunch of speakers normally, because not everybody wants to listen to everybody talk all the time. But every month we're going to have a breakfast here where our men and women who have served can enjoy a great meal and a great time talking with one another. And they can maybe talk to some people who serve them at these tables. And sure, other people can come, but y'all will have to pay. Because you didn't wear the uniform. So right now, what I'd like to do is I would like to introduce you to the person who, when I brought this crazy idea up to him, standing in the doorway of the Fleur-de-Lis in Mandeville, and said, what do you think? He didn't pause. He didn't hesitate. He just said, let's do it. And he made it happen. And here we are. So, he's done a lot of things in his life. He's a lot of things to a lot of people. But for me, he's a friend. He's somebody I trust. And a terrific partner in this venture. So, I would like to introduce to you Major Scott Nowicki, retired. And in case you didn't know, Bronze Star recipient.
Booyah.
And my friend.
Hey, thank you very much. I'm looking forward to speaking with you today. It's a Saturday. Everybody's giving up their time to be with us, so we really appreciate that. I have learned that if Jen's around, hide, and if she does catch you, you say yes. So thank you, Jen, for the great introduction. How did this start? She mentioned February, but around that same time, I was asked to give a talk to Republican professional women at St. Tammany, and they asked me what it's like to be a veteran. What does it mean? And I struggled with it. And I struggled with it for about a week. I thought about it. On the way to the meeting, I figured out what I was going to do. And I was just going to tell a story. So veterans have a lot of different experiences out there. They've had the harshest conditions. They've been in combat, peacekeeping, peacetime military, everything that you could throw at them, heavy equipment, ships, aircraft. It's a very dangerous business. And there's a lot of emotions that you go through when you're serving. And so I'll tell you this story. I was a young second lieutenant in Hawaii, and in Hawaii as a medical service corps officer, one of the things that I was tasked with doing is running the blood drive every month for the post at Schofield Barracks, Hawaii. So we had goals that we needed to reach every month to reach these the number of units of blood that we needed, and we served all of the Pacific in medical support. So we needed a large number of units for blood every month, and it was always a struggle to get soldiers to come to the blood drive, donate their time and their blood every month. It just was very difficult to do. So we ran a number of blood drives, and then I was promoted into a platoon and was leading soldiers, and then I became the guy tasked with actually executing the blood drive instead of just organizing it. And my friend switched roles with me, so he calls me one day and says, hey, we have this emergency blood drive. I said, we just had one last week. You know, how are we going to do this? He says, hey, you got to do it. There's no choice, and we have a big goal. We have a problem. And I said, okay, what's the problem? He says, we have a retired lieutenant colonel that's going to be going through surgery. He needs blood. And he's from 127 Wolfhounds, which is a very storied unit. And I said, oh boy, that's heavy. That's heavy lifting, and we got to get to work on this. So I went out to my NCOs. I said, here's what we got. We got to make this happen. They made flyers. We put them all over the post. We had lines going out the door. People were giving blood. It was amazing. So the hospital that was taking the blood was there, and they just shut it off after about an hour. As we had lieutenant colonels and others in the back of the line trying to get blood, and they said, hey, Lieutenant, what's going on? I said, I don't know. And so I would go to the hospital and folks, and I said, hey, how come we're stopping? And they said, well, we have enough. So afterwards, I said, well, sir, we got enough blood. You know, we exceeded the goal. We had this great experience and everything. And I go back and I say, hey, we've met the goal. We're done. Go to my friend. I said, we can close it out. Just send out notices to the units. Don't send anybody. And he goes, wow, how did you get this done already? Usually it's an all-day affair. I said, well, we did just what you said. We highlighted what was happening and how we needed support and help. And he said, I was joking. And I said, we have the newspaper out there. You know, they want to interview us on how we did this and how we made this happen. He said, oh, man. So sometimes in the military, you have a humorous moment, right? High anxiety about your career. You say, what did we do? You know, and so I had a long confession with my boss about what happened and how that transpired, and he had a good chuckle about it. He says, just tell them it's a HIPAA violation. You can't talk about it. So we ended up having very successful. So sometimes you get named in the military. So for that year, I was Lieutenant Blood Bank. Yeah, we get over that. But you know, in the military, I say there's some danger involved too, right? So a good friend of mine here, John Schroeder, you know, peacetime military, working in criminal investigations, undercover, kicking in doors, going after the bad guys. You never know when you're going to go home. Forward operations, when you're just loading up to go to training, people sometimes get hurt around the railroad yards and on the ships. But I want to tell you a story that happened in 2000. I'd gone to flight school, got promoted a few times, and my first unit was a unit called Flatiron. It's very unique. It's the only crash rescue unit in the United States Army. It's located at Fort Rucker. Its primary mission is to support the United States Army Aviation Center and School. So 3 times a day, about 400 aircraft take off, and you learn how to fly helicopters there. So as those helicopters go out and fly, when you have that many aircraft in the air, occasionally something bad happens, and this unit is like a fire station. And the name Flatiron was because back in the old days, blacksmiths would always keep an iron in the fire. During the Vietnam War, Flatiron kept an aircraft in the air just to be able to respond to accidents. So it's 2000, we didn't keep an aircraft in the air, but we had the crew there 24/7, and we had a second up crew that was on recall 30 minutes. So it's peacetime. We flew hundreds of missions, both for the center and school, but also we had a mass mission, military assistance to safety and traffic. And what happens in that mission is you have an agreement with all local law enforcement, EMS, fire departments, volunteer fire departments, and we would, on our first up, go pick up traffic accident victims from rural areas and fly them to the hospital. The second mission was to move people from the ER in a lower level hospital to somewhere else that they could get the treatment they needed. So second up would do that. So it was a Saturday in, I believe it was June of 2000, and there was a crew that I worked with very closely. If you imagine working in a firehouse, you're having lunches, dinners, you're spending the night there together, you have Thanksgiving meal together, your families come to you, and everybody's really tight. You get to know each other very closely. So this crew's out flying. They had to do a second up mission from a hospital in Dothan, Alabama, and take them to Birmingham, Alabama. So generally, when you're on second up, that pager goes off about 1:30, 2:30 in the morning. It's never a convenient time. You get up, you get to the airfield, you fly the mission. So they flew to Birmingham in the dark. They arrived there, they dropped off the patient. They went over to the Birmingham airport, got gas, came back to the hospital, picked up the flight medic, and they're flying back. And if you can imagine, it's June, it's hot, the doors are open in the back of the helicopter, the breeze is coming in, and you're probably zoning in and out a little bit in the back. Pilots are working hard, watching and maybe having a little back and forth banter in the aircraft as you fly the mission back home. And you know as soon as you land, you're off. You have another couple days, it's just gonna be your time, so you're probably pretty excited about that. There was a loud bang in the aircraft, and the aircraft immediately yawed 90 degrees. A gentleman that worked for me, a specialist, Paul DeWitt, was sitting in the back. He's a firefighter, and the pilot said, "There's something wrong with the tail rotor." And he said, "There is something wrong with the tail rotor. I saw the whole tail, the vertical fin, come off the tail boom and fly away." So the aircraft immediately started pitching into a turn. They're over a wooded area, and they're descending. The crew, one is an ex-Vietnam pilot, probably saved the entire crew by responding appropriately. They found a small hover hole in the trees, and they went for that little spot. And just as they got to the top of the trees, the rotor blade started hitting and knocking off sections of the rotor blade as well as the tree, and it fell about 30 feet to the ground. The rotor was not in balance at that point and came through the cockpit of the aircraft and injured the two pilots up front. The medic in the back, the one that you would hope would make it and be fine, he didn't survive, but he had a broken back. So he immediately gets out of the aircraft, stands up, falls down right there on the ground. Left the firefighter in the back is the only one. He pulled the two pilots out. He started CPR, or not CPR, first aid, started putting bandages on the injuries, and it just so happened that there was a local EMT firefighter station that was having their morning training and saw the aircraft going into the trees. And so they responded probably within 15 minutes. But this young firefighter is about 24 years old. He's working on all three of the crew and doing everything he can. This gentleman was an outgoing soldier. So a year later, everybody survives. They get the Broken Wing Award. They're heroes. He's a hero because he's the one that saved the other three on the aircraft, but he changed. He was not as outgoing, and he worked for me, so I noticed that, and I could see the change in him. So he said, "Sir, I'm done. I've served my time. I feel like my life was at risk. I've served my nation, and I'm going to go and become a civilian. I'm going to go back to school." So being tight, we all stayed together, especially the flight medics, the firefighters. They kept in touch with him. He went to school. He just kind of felt a little disconnected. He's an older student in college. He felt disconnected from us, and so eventually we all lost contact with him. So why I tell you that story is so many of our veterans come back from the service and they feel kind of left out. They don't know how to act, how to share their experiences. How do you give a presentation about service, what it means, what you've experienced? When we came back from Iraq, we had 181 soldiers that we brought back safely. In 2 years' time, we lost 3 to suicide. And we hear the stories about 22 soldiers committing suicide a day. There's 293,000 on the top end if you Google Louisiana veterans. And so what today is about making sure that our veterans and our community connect. And I'm so excited to see that there's so many people here today. And the Northshore Veterans Network is designed to amplify, market, and really publicize all the services that the community here offers. Because I felt nothing but support since I've been here as a veteran and a resident of St. Tammany. But we need to do more than that. And so I'm asking you today to take a look at what we've done here today. This was supposed to be like a dress rehearsal for those that provide support to veterans in some way, and we do have a number of veterans here, and that's great. But next month and the month after, we a lot more veterans here, and we ask that you continue to come to support them. But we also want to use you as our brain trust. There's a lot of different things that we can do. So we have PTSD workshops, Veterans to Farmers programs, and then we also have a lot of successful business owners and elected officials that are veterans. So how can we come in and say, we're going to write business plans today, or show you how to write a business plan, how to apply for grants, how to take advantage of government programs, or how to network within your community. We have all that expertise right here in this room. All we have to do is find a way to connect regularly. So what we want to do is have this breakfast every month. Everybody's invited. It's low cost if you're not a veteran, and it's free to all veterans. So I thank you for your time this morning. I really appreciate it. It's a great way to show our support to veterans, and let's keep it going. Thank you.